Did Trump hijack the Iranian ship specifically to steal Tehran's precious weapons materials and critical components? Has the US resorted to desperate piracy measures just to rebuild its depleted military stockpile as Iran rapidly rearms? A stunning investigative report exposes the shocking truth behind America's controversial seizure of the Iran-linked vessel Touska. Sensitive materials and rare metals formed part of the contentious seizure aboard the ship Touska in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's top general taunts Trump mercilessly for his crippling weapons shortage, even after this humiliating hijack failure. Tensions in the Gulf have sharply escalated after the United States seized an Iranian-linked cargo vessel, identified as Touska, on April 19, deepening the standoff in the region. The Touska was intercepted and boarded by US forces off the coast of the Iranian port of Chabahar, according to statements from US Central Command describing the operation as a lawful enforcement of the naval blockade. American officials claimed the vessel failed to comply with repeated warnings over a period of roughly 6 hours, prompting the decision to forcibly stop and inspect the ship. The now seized vessel may have been carrying so-called dual-use items, a Reuters report later revealed, meaning equipment or materials that could be applied to both civilian and military purposes. Maritime security sources told Reuters that the seized materials could serve both civilian industrial applications and potential military end uses, fitting within the broader definition of sanctioned cargo. US officials treat certain metals, industrial pipes, and electronic components as sensitive items, because they can be used in missile systems or other weapons-related infrastructure. These same sources also noted that the Touska had previously been involved in transporting similar dual-use cargo, reinforcing concerns about its role in Iran's broader procurement network. By expanding the definition of what counts as contraband, the US enforcement posture increases the risk that more neutral or third-country vessels could be subjected to challenge or interception at sea. Analysts warn that such actions could heighten the likelihood of a direct confrontation between US forces and Iranian or Iranian-linked actors in the Strait of Hormuz area. Additionally, Nikki Haley, the former US ambassador to the United Nations, claimed the vessel was carrying chemicals intended for use in missile production, framing the seizure as a major non-proliferation win. The former Republican governor argued that the cargo originated from China, suggesting that Beijing may be indirectly supporting Iran's missile program through commercial channels. These claims, however, have not been independently verified by official US government agencies or international observers, leaving the exact nature and origin of the cargo disputed. Iran has strongly condemned the seizure, describing it as an unlawful attack on a commercial vessel engaged in normal maritime trade, and warned it could violate international law. The Iranian Foreign Ministry has demanded the immediate release of the ship, its crew, and assurances that the detained personnel will be treated safely and in line with international norms. The discovery of materials that could have potential military use comes at a time when the US itself has reportedly faced shortages of certain munitions and precision weapon stocks amid the ongoing conflict. The US Air Force has officially extended the life of its aging A-10 Warthog attack plane just as tensions with Iran remain dangerously high. Under the new plan, the A-10 fleet will stay in service until 2030, pushing back an earlier retirement deadline that had been set for 2026. The A-10 first flew in 1976, making it a Cold War veteran that has been on the Pentagon's chopping block for more than 20 years. Within the US Air Force, critics have long argued that the Warthog is simply too old, too slow, and too expensive to maintain in an era of stealth jets and hypersonic weapons. Retiring the A-10, advocates of modernization insist, would free up significant funds for developing hypersonic weapons and other cutting-edge systems. On the other side, critics of retirement warned that scrapping the Warthog without a true replacement would leave ground troops without reliable close air support. At the same time, officials have cautioned that keeping the Warthog fleet running puts extra strain on maintenance units and supply chains needed for newer aircraft. During the recent war with Iran, A-10s were deployed for close air support missions, using their powerful nose-mounted cannons against Iranian boats and positions. Notably, Iranian fire reportedly struck at least one US A-10 during the conflict, forcing the pilot to eject and leaving the aircraft destroyed after crashing in Kuwait. The A-10 was not the only casualty. Reports indicate the US also lost advanced F-35s, F-15E strike fighters, KC-135 tankers and C-130 transports in the Iran war. All of this is happening just as the US faces mounting shortages of key weapons and munitions after months of high-intensity combat. According to reporting cited by the Wall Street Journal, the Pentagon is now pushing major U.S. automakers to pivot into weapons production. The U.S. War Department is said to be in talks with household names like Ford and General Motors, exploring how their assembly lines can be adapted for war. Officials are exploring whether auto factories can be retooled to produce missiles, loitering munitions, and other tactical hardware at scale. Analysts warn that the U.S. is facing a worsening shortage of critical missiles such as THAAD interceptors, PRSM and ATACMS tactical missiles, and Tomahawk cruise missiles. By late March, some reports estimated that the U.S. had less than a month's worth of THAAD and PRSM missiles left at current rates of fire. A UK think tank went further, projecting that the U.S. would effectively run out of THAAD interceptors by April 17th, and exhaust its PRSM and ATACMS stocks even earlier, by April 12th. By the end of March, reports suggested that the U.S. had already fired roughly a quarter of its entire Tomahawk missile inventory in the Iran conflict. Iran released a video on April 19 showing underground missile and drone launchers, signaling that its strategic weapons infrastructure remains active despite weeks of war. The IRGC-linked video portrayed ongoing overhaul and reconstruction work on Iran's missile and drone stockpiles, suggesting Tehran is trying to showcase recovery and resilience during the ceasefire. IRGC Aerospace Force Commander Saeed Majid Mousavi said the replenishment of arms had been accelerated, according to reporting cited by Iranian outlets. Mousavi said the pace of replenishing weapons increased during the ceasefire period, indicating that Iran used the pause to restore parts of its arsenal. His remarks were reported by WANA and Press TV just ahead of the expected expiry of the ceasefire window. Saeed Majid Mousavi said, and I quote, "Iran's speed in updating and reloading missile and drone launchers have surpassed even its pre-war pace. We are aware that the enemy is incapable of creating such conditions for themselves during the ceasefire. Since the ceasefire began on April 11th, the United States has had to bring in ammunition from the other side of the world in a trickle. They have lost this phase of the war as well. They have lost the Strait, they have lost Lebanon, and they have lost the entire region." Unquote. Mousavi's claims came after US media reports argued that Iran still retained the ability to sustain its missile capability despite the conflict. The Wall Street Journal, citing US intelligence assessments, reported that Iran still has thousands of ballistic missiles in reserve. Those missiles could reportedly be pulled out of hiding or retrieved from underground sites, reinforcing concerns that Iran's strike capacity was not eliminated.